A Harvard study just revealed what 100+ flights per year do to your body. And in this video, we're gonna be breaking down exactly what happens and what you can actually do to mitigate that. If you're new here, I'm Zach Rana, a fat loss expert and biochemist. I've helped hundreds of traveling professionals get leaner and stronger without work and travel getting in the way. And on this channel, we break down exactly how to do that. Today, I'm gonna walk you through the Harvard study that shows why traveling professionals are 3 times more likely to be obese than the average person. And then we're also gonna go over the systems and strategies you need to take control of your health even while traveling all the time. To start, let me show you the mistake that stops the majority of traveling professionals from ever being consistent and how you can overcome that. But before any of this will make sense, I wanna tell you a quick story. It's a Thursday night, my flight home gets delayed. I've skipped dinner and I'm on a new time zone. The flight lands and the initial thing that I see is McDonald's. What did I do in this moment is I went and had McDonald's because I was tired, I was hungry, and I was sleep deprived. And the reality is that when you're in this situation, like where I was at in that period of my life was I was making decisions constantly. And so I had decision fatigue. And I got to this point where I couldn't just make the decision I knew I should make because in that moment, my body was craving something else and I was too exhausted to actually do the things I knew I should do to get me towards my goals. And so that leads me to mistake number 1, which is failing to plan ahead, because as the saying goes, you either plan ahead or you plan to fail. And the majority of traveling professionals I've seen, and I have fallen prey to this as well, is just failing to plan and thinking like, I'll just wing it, figure it out in the moment, I'll make the healthy choice. But at the moment that that decision actually presents itself, I'm not in the right headspace because I've just made decisions all day and I'm exhausted. And so I end up making the decision that I know I probably shouldn't do. The reality is that we can't actually rely on willpower because we only have a finite amount of that, but we can rely on systems. And so for me and for what I teach most of my clients is that the systems that we want to have in place is that we've already mapped out where we're landing, what foods are going to be available, and have already pre-decided what we're going to eat when we're in a better headspace. This could be morning of, the day before, the week before, when we're in a good headspace where we actually are making decisions conducive to our overall health. But there's another mistake that makes me really sad because this one is more of an internal self-belief and self-esteem thing. And it leads to a lot of people who travel a lot thinking that they are just undisciplined or lazy or incapable of having the health that they want. The Harvard study actually shared an example, which is interesting. It makes me think of my client Karina because she had been struggling with her weight her whole life, and she believed that she wasn't strong enough mentally to see any sort of results long term and actually see something through. In fact, in our interview, she told me, she was like, when I signed up, I wasn't even sure I could actually see this through, right? And she tried keto multiple times, but she couldn't stick to it long enough. She'd start to crave carbs and sweets and then eventually go back after a few months. This led to her thinking that she was lazy and that she was undisciplined because she would eventually give in to temptation. The problem wasn't with her though, it was with her system, because the reality is we want the things that we can't have. And so if, I do something like keto and I tell myself, you can't eat this, you can't eat this, you're not allowed to eat this, over time, my brain actually starts to want it more and more and more until I finally give in. And then once I give in, what happens? It's a cascade of reverting back to the way things were. And what I work on a lot with my clients is shifting that belief system into thinking, okay, if there are certain things that I love, right? Let's say, for example, my favorite foods. I love burgers. That is one of my all-time favorite foods. And so if I were to tell myself, all right, Zach, you can never eat a hamburger for the rest of your life, that would be pretty sad and depressing. And I probably wouldn't want to stick to a diet very long term if I couldn't eat something that I loved. So what we want to do instead is be able to figure out how to incorporate those things into our diets. And the way that we do that is through macronutrients. So if you're not familiar with that, that's proteins, fats, and carbs. When you have the right ratio of the 3, you can theoretically eat whatever you want, of course within reason, right? But to go back to the hamburger example, I can actually fit a burger into my life because I know that it's got primarily fats and proteins. And so once I eat that burger, I just know that I'm taking up a certain allocation of my fats and of my protein goal for the day. Going back to Karina, once she realized she could focus on her macronutrients which is proteins, fats, and carbs, she realized she could actually have things like her favorite foods, which were ice cream and pizza, occasionally without sabotaging her goals. And that ultimately is mistake number 2, which is being overly restrictive and not being able to sustain it for a long period of time. There's one final mistake that really annoys me, and it annoys me because this mistake is basically caused by a lot of the fitness gurus that you see out there. So to illustrate this, I want to share with you the story of my client Jude, who came to me having done hours and hours of cardio. He bought a Peloton and he had literally just been slaving away on this machine, and whenever he traveled, he would just use the treadmills and the bikes and just go crazy for hours per week. And he was stuck. His body had actually stopped losing weight. He lost weight, I think the initial 2-3 months that he did that, but then he just capped out at 185 pounds, could not lose weight, and still had a gut. And the thing that really pisses me off about this is that so much fitness stuff out there, like you think about the marketing for a Peloton, right? They have all these super fit, toned, lean athletes that are promoting this machine. And what it does in your brain is it makes you think like, oh, well, if these crazy, fit athletes are using this machine, then if I do it, I'll look like them. But the reality is they're not only using that as their training. And to be clear, doing a Peloton or doing treadmills or cardio, whatever, not a bad thing, right? Or HIIT classes, don't even get me started on those, like Orange Theory and whatever. Not a bad thing to do, actually really great for your health, but these types of things and doing endless amounts of cardio doesn't actually get you to the body composition of being lean and being toned and looking like an athlete if you're not also incorporating strength training and you're not also looking at your diet and your nutrition. And that ultimately is the third mistake, which is doing cardio and no strength training and thinking just spinning your wheels and doing more and more cardio, eating less and less food is what's going to help you actually change your body composition, which ultimately it won't. And I'll probably do a full video going into the full science of how that works and how you can optimize your metabolism, but essentially what that does is it tanks your metabolism, and that's why you stop losing weight. So that's why Jude was stuck. He was like, I'm eating healthy, I'm eating less food, and I'm working out like crazy, but my body just isn't responding. It's because he had essentially tanked his metabolism, and that's thanks to the wonderful fitness industry that tells us all of these things that are wrong, okay? So strength train, obviously still want cardio. Take a look at your macronutrients and then think about your systems and actually plan ahead. And ultimately, those are the things that lead to success. This is, like I said, this is what I have seen across the board time and time again, having taken over 200 people through this process. Those are the main roadblocks that every single person seems to run into, and this is how we actually overcome it. So anyways, I hope this video was helpful. If you want customized, tailored guidance to you, you can click the link below and talk to me and my team. But otherwise, like I said, this channel is literally to share with you all what is working for us and how we're doing it. So I hope this video was helpful.